On this edition of Southern Newsweek, pressure from academic professionals over the government's polytech reforms puts the Education Minister on the defence. A new report warns more than half of Christchurch's waterways don't make the grade. And a mixed bag with something for everyone is being promised at this year's Dunedin Festival of the Arts launch. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Hannah Wilkins. Former Otago Polytech CEO Phil Kerr has described the state of the country's polytech education system as a national disgrace. His comments come as the government merges the country's polytechs into a single entity. And his stinging attack's been followed up in Parliament by Invercargill National MP Penny Simmons, formerly head of SIT, which left Minister Chris Hipkins in defence mode.
Education Minister Chris Hipkins is under fire from several fronts about Te the government's major reform of the country's polytech sector. More than $500 million has already been spent to merge the various institutions into one single organisation.
Phil Kerr's comments, quote, simply an ego trip on the minister's part, end of quote, or Merrin Davis's comment, quote, everyone is in Disneyland.
National's Invercargill MP Penny Simmons raised concerns about the mega merger in 2019 while she was CEO of the Southern Institute of Technology. In Parliament on Thursday, Chris Hipkins said he respects former Otago Polytech CEO Phil Kerr, but may have misled the House by claiming Kerr was against the merger from the start.
Mr Speaker, I respect Phil Kerr and I do recognise his considerable contribution to vocational education in New Zealand, and I respectfully disagree with him. I note that he was not a fan of the vocational education reforms from the beginning.
The general direction of the reforms we think is a positive move for New Zealand, for tertiary education in New Zealand.
Kerr ignited the polytech merger issue this week when he labelled Te a national disgrace, a statement he stands by, laying the blame at the minister's feet.
Polytechnics are seriously underfunded. Well, he's had 5 years to do something about that. He's had 3 since he announced the reforms. He's had 2 since Te was set up, and not a single solitary thing has been done.
A report by the Tertiary Education Commission warns a drop in enrolments will mean Te latest annual deficit could surge past $110 million, $53 million more than budgeted. Minister Hipkins says a change was necessary due to spiralling debt across many of the country's polytechs. But Penny Simmons wants the reforms to be paused. Across the South today.
Dunedin surfers are concerned a decomposing whale could fuel a great white shark feeding frenzy, which could potentially last all summer, putting swimmers and surfers at risk. This dead humpback whale was discovered at a remote Ormemi beach near Warrington, north of Dunedin, last month. It was initially hoped the large mammal might have washed back out to sea, but that hasn't happened. Now the South Coast Board Riders Association wants the rotting carcass towed out to sea or buried in the interest of public safety. The association believes the 9-metre long whale could take 6 months to decompose, with fluids leaching into the ocean, attracting sharks to the area. A new report commissioned by the Christchurch City Council has found nearly half the region's waterways have poor water quality. But the Council's Chief Waterways Ecologist says more work needs to be done before any improvements will be seen.
It isn't all clear in Christchurch's water. Waterfowl and dog faeces, dissolved copper from car brake pads, and zinc from tyres and roofing are just some of the contaminants found washed into the waterways in recent times. Now a new report by the Christchurch City Council has found nearly half of the city's waterways still have poor water quality. The Council's principal waterways ecologist, Dr Belinda Margits, says there's been little improvement in water quality since monitoring began in 2000.
We've had a significant amount of development and earthquakes and a whole bunch of different things that have happened over that time, and where the situation hasn't got worse. The
Council monitors 51 sites across the city each month. The report found overall that the city's water quality was not improving or declining over time.
There's definitely work that we need to do as a community to keep improving those values.
The Heathcote River catchment, which includes a number of industrial areas, still has some of the poorest water quality sites in Christchurch.
Christchurch is quite unique because we are built on a swamp or a wetland. And so we have a significant proportion of waterways compared to other regions.
But Margits admits improving water quality was a slow process, with any changes taking time to flow through. In Christchurch, the South today.
An eclectic mix of acts have been announced for this year's Dunedin Festival of the Arts. The 2022 program was launched earlier this week, with this year's selection including a brand new opera, an international glam rock touring show and some performances outside of Dunedin.
Promising something for all tastes. The program for the 2022 Dunedin Arts Festival was launched last night at the Dunedin Public Art Gallery, with Festival Director Charlie Unwin promising a smorgasbord of entertainment.
So we've got a glam rock circus based on the works of David Bowie. We have a brand new opera with New Zealand Opera Company, which is set around Janet Frame and Seacliff Mental Asylum. We have Don McGlashan, New Zealand music icon, coming, as well as acts from all around the world.
There's also the world premiere of Tom Monckton's play The King of Taking, and Rutene Spooner's musical cabaret about New Zealand's own demigod in thoroughly modern Maui. A broad range of arts genres are being covered in the festival, ranging from circus and theatre through to family-friendly and literary events. And Unwin says performances won't be limited to just Dunedin City.
Things in the Regent and the Art Gallery. We've got a fantastic music selection at Knox Church, and we even go as far as the Oamaru Opera House and to Gore.
The New Zealand Symphony Orchestra is set to welcome Venezuelan pianist Gabriela Montero, while for music fans who enjoy more of a roots sound, there's singer and actress Whirimarco Black and Dunedin's Shane Carter. There will also be a selection of daytime performances, along with free shows being staged across the city. The Dunedin Arts Festival is set to run for almost a fortnight from October the 12th. In Dunedin, the South today.
A key milestone has been reached in the construction of the new curved steel girder Beaumont Bridge along State Highway 8 in the Clutha district.
Large pieces of very heavy metal have started arriving at the site of the new bridge, which will replace the existing 137-year-old single-lane structure. The first 2 of 20 steel bridge beams travelled through the district this week. The main beams are being manufactured in the North Island and freighted down to the Beaumont site in pairs over the next 9 weeks. Waka Kotahi, the New Zealand Transport Agency, says work continued this week despite persistent heavy rain falling across Otago. A temporary trestle will be completed over the Clutha River next week, which will be used to build the new bridge. The beams will be stored on site until they're positioned on the new bridge structure from late September. In Beaumont, the South today.
Still to come after the break on Southern Newsweek, the Christchurch City Council is embracing electric vehicles with a new convoy of trucks, and Lake Hawea residents brace themselves for a cold plunge. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A convoy of specialist battery electric trucks have hit the road in Christchurch as part of an environmental push led by the City Council. $3 million is being invested into 2 city-wide projects aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
9 battery electric trucks by 9 different companies line the forecourt of the Christchurch Art Gallery. The City Council is hoping these brand new battery-powered heavy vehicles, leased from TR Group, will lead the way locally, with the goal of reducing the district's greenhouse gas emissions by half by 2030.
One diesel truck that does 200,000 kilometres a year is the equivalent of taking 100 cars off the road. Quite a significant contribution.
The electric trucks will be used by 4 transport companies making deliveries, along with 5 civil construction and maintenance companies who carry out work around the city. Mayor Leanne Dalziel was pleased to see more than $3 million being invested into 2 distinct projects.
It's my official and absolute pleasure to launch the Civil Construction and Maintenance Services Project and the Shopping District Battery Electric Truck Delivery Services Project. Well done.
Earlier this year, the Labour-led government announced an emissions reduction plan for the country, including an ambitious target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. In Christchurch, the South today.
Wasting food has apparently become a major issue in New Zealand, and the Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor has been tasked with finding ways to reduce wastage. Dame Juliette Gerard recently visited Otago University's Food Science Department and got to sample a few items created by recycling food products that otherwise would go to waste.
Sampling a new edible treat created from the leftover waste product of making oat milk. The Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor, Professor Dame Juliette Gerard, visited the University of Otago's Food Science Department recently. Gerard spent 2 days at the university learning about ideas on how New Zealand can reduce food wastage.
The exciting thing about Otago is that they've got the food waste innovation theme, so they've already pulled lots of people together. So there's lots of people on campus, there's lots of stakeholders, there's strong connectivity to the Champions 12.3, who are lots of industry partners that we met with this morning. So we've spent 2 days just talking to everybody about what they understand to be the challenges and opportunities in food waste and innovation.
Kiwis are estimated to waste about 1/8 of the food they buy, and lab technician Sarah Johnson says the oat crackers are an example of ways to reduce food wastage.
Oat pulp is the byproduct of oat milk, so we've developed some labs kind of going on that plant-based trend, where we are demonstrating to the students that you can also use that what could be a waste product into a new product.
Also served up was bread which was made in part from old recycled bread, and dairy-free blueberry ice cream made from blueberries that were not up to otherwise marketable standard. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A new boiler is being commissioned into service at a milk powder plant near Clydevale. Owned by the French multinational food products corporation called Danone, the new boiler aims to reduce the plant's carbon footprint by at least 90%.
Getting installed and fired up at Danone's Clydevale plant. This new boiler will eventually power much of the milk powder factory near Balclutha with water heated by burning forestry waste material. The company's planning for the new boiler to be integrated into the factory by the middle of next month. It will gradually take over from the current LPG-powered boiler as part of the company's goal to become carbon neutral.
The idea is that it's going to fully replace our LPG boiler as the main steam supply to the site, and that's going to allow us to reduce our carbon footprint by 90 to 95%.
The boiler will only burn debris from forests that are certified as being renewable. The director of the milk powder plant says part of Danone's goal is caring for the planet and giving back to the New Zealand dairy industry.
The dairy industry is a key driver of the country. We do want to ensure that we bring value and our competency across Danone to New Zealand as a country as well.
The boiler has an emissions control unit to collect ash waste, and the company's aiming to find ways of repurposing that as well. In Clydevale, the South Today.
Dave Parker's had a tough few years. His wife died, leaving him as a solo parent looking after 3 daughters, then a hip replacement, and lastly diagnosed with a neurological condition. Multiple sclerosis caused many parts of his body to fail, including some brain function and temporary blindness. But Parker found something he credits with saving his life.
In just under a decade, Dunedin man Dave Parker lost his partner to suicide, was left to raise 3 daughters, and was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after having a hip replaced. He found there was one thing which helped him get through: exercise.
It might not have actually saved my life, but it certainly saved me from a fate worse than death, I think. I'd be sitting on the couch. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing. I'm out doing stuff in the community now and, able to partake in life.
When his multiple sclerosis symptoms got bad, he had to give up the management job he was in. He was finding that exercise was reducing some of the effects of MS. So he began training as a personal trainer at Otago Polytech. He's now offering exercise plans to people who are struggling.
I don't think that I've so far found an illness that you can have that is hindered and made worse by exercise. Everything that I've seen, exercise makes any illness better.
He says exercise has helped as his brain is rerouting signals. He says his vision has improved, along with his balance and coordination. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Lake Hawea residents took a cold plunge on Sunday to help raise funds for their local community centre. About 30 brave souls took a leap of faith into the chilly waters near the Lake Hawea Dam.
Lake Hawea residents took a long walk off the Lake Hawea jetty at the boat ramp near the dam, ready to plunge into the not quite freezing lake water.
Really cold. The average, I think the temperature today was 8.6 degrees, so pretty cold.
Polar plunge organiser Anne-Marie Chatterton was among those who leapt into Lake Hawea on Sunday. She says the event is a fundraiser for the local community centre, as well as an event to welcome new people to the area.
So all of the funds for the donations for today go towards the community centre and the general maintenance and promotion of events to help keep the community together.
About 60 people attended the event, with many of the winter bathers wearing fancy dress outfits. Once in the water, they took a 5-metre swim to shore, before being welcomed into the embraces of people holding blankets and towels. Most then warmed up with hot drinks and food. However, a few jumpers had a second or even a third go. In Lake Hawea, the South Today.
Still to come after the break on Southern Newsweek, one Southland track cyclist parents are delighted by their son's Commonwealth Games success, and a professional skateboarder decided to tackle the world's steepest street. Tēnā koe, welcome back. A group of firefighters and even a local mayor are getting in shape by walking the stairs in the Clyde Dam once a week. The team are preparing for the Sky Tower Challenge in Auckland, where firefighters have to climb more than 1,000 steps, raising money for charity.
Getting into shape for this year's Sky Tower Challenge. This team of 3 firefighters from Clyde have teamed up with Central Otago District's Mayor Tim Cadogan for the event. And to help them get into shape, they've been allowed to use the stairs inside the Clyde Dam as they build up the stamina for Auckland's Sky Tower. Station Officer Tim Paulin says they're enjoying the camaraderie in the lead up to the actual challenge in November.
It's good. It's a good thing to do. We do get together and have a good yarn. It's a bit of a well-being night for us every once a week.
There's just 159 steps at the Clyde Dam, so to match the more than 1,000 steps of Sky Tower, the group need to climb them 8 times in a row. Some of the team have done the challenge before, and 4-time veteran Paulin admits it's a hard slog.
The gear's heavy, but it's also extremely hot, and I don't have a great thermostat myself, so I struggle with the heat part by wearing all our fire protective gear, but yeah, we're getting used to it, sort of.
The annual Sky Tower Challenge is a popular fundraiser for leukemia and blood cancer New Zealand, with firefighters from across the country taking part. In Clyde, the South Today.
The parents of Southland track cyclist Corbin Strong were delighted to watch their son claim his first Commonwealth gold medal early on Monday. The 22-year-old cyclist won the 15-kilometre scratch race after some clever racing by the Kiwi riders.
The raised fist of Corbin Strong was confirmation for his dad Alan Strong to start the celebrations in Invercargill. His 22-year-old son winning his first Commonwealth Games gold medal in the 15-kilometre men's scratch race on Monday morning. Corbin Strong had the support of teammates George Jackson and Campbell Stewart, who combined to wear out some of the other teams earlier in the race. Strong lives with Stewart in Europe, his flatmate leading out the Southlander in a thrilling end to the 60-lap tactical race.
To have that trust that I have such a strong teammate there that is willing to put his race on the line to help me, and it would be the same the other way around. So yeah, really happy to have George and Campbell out there helping me get this gold medal.
Strong then returned the favour early this morning, New Zealand time, in the gruelling points race, supporting teammates Campbell Stewart and Aaron Gate to silver and gold medals respectively. New Zealand's track cycling team have had a very successful Games, winning 13 medals, with Strong proud to be part of it all.
Yeah, I'm really thankful to have this opportunity to come to London and represent New Zealand. It's an absolute dream, and yeah, I'm just relishing every moment and every opportunity. So it's really cool to go out there and have a good race and represent my country the way I did.
The cycling action now moves to the road along with mountain biking events. From Southland, the South Today.
Experience was key as the ice heated up in Naseby. The 2022 New Zealand Mixed Doubles Qualifier was held at the Naseby Indoor Curling Rink at the weekend, with 16 teams battling it out on the rink.
Curling is all about being on target. In Naseby over the weekend, places in the national doubles squad were up for grabs, with the winners set to curl off to see who goes to the World Champs in Korea next year. Chief Umpire Darren Carson says there are competitors on the ice with international experience.
We've got Sean and Bridget. They've won a silver medal at a World Championship before. I've done really well at other World Championships. Dobby and Natalie, they went to the last World Championships and they did pretty well. Anton and Courtney have been to a championship, they've done well. We've got the teams out there that everybody's looking over the shoulder. It's great to have that depth.
As with other sports involving a target, the closest object to the centre wins. During the weekend's competition, Carson had to get out a specialised tool to measure the distance between two stones. He says in his decade of ruling on international competitions, he's only seen dead even stones 3 times, once at Olympic level.
It's usually within a few millimetres up to a centimetre, and after that the players can tell themselves. When it gets tight like that, you just have to keep going round with the measuring tool and seeing if you can get a difference. If you can't, you just got to call it an even measure. You can't make a decision otherwise.
In the end, it was the experienced pairing of Maniatoto siblings Jess and Ben Smith who qualified in the top spot with a score of 7-0. Carson was pleased with the record number of people entering the event, with 16 pairs, the largest number, stepping up to help their stones to fly right on the ice. In Naseby, the South Today.
Skateboarding down the world's steepest street was a snap decision for Zach Mills-Goodwin. The 26-year-old, who's set to represent Australia at the World Skate Games later this year, was in Dunedin and thought, why not skate down Baldwin Street?
Baldwin Street isn't generally for the faint-hearted at the best of times, but when Australian pro skater Zach Mills-Goodwin was visiting Dunedin this week, he decided to skate down or bomb the world's steepest street. He climbed Baldwin Street with a group of friends carrying his trusty skateboard, and decided to skate down on a whim, even though he described the skating conditions as sketchy. Mills-Goodwin is a highly experienced skater who's been hill bombing for many years around the world. During the 5 to 6 second descent of Baldwin Street, he believes he reached speeds of around 80 kilometres an hour before flicking the board sideways to grind it to a halt. He says both the angle of the street and the rough surface means skating down it isn't recommended. His visit to Dunedin is part of a trip around New Zealand before he heads to Argentina to compete in the World Skate Games later this year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.